Welcome to the cold, hard awakening that follows the inevitable death of everything bubble in history, the moment when the digital mirage finally evaporates, leaving a nation of paper millionaires standing in the ruins of their own expectations. For decades, the modern world has been lulled into a deep financial coma, convinced that wealth is merely a fluctuating number on a smartphone app or a participation trophy for existing within a debt-fueled system managed by central planners. But when the cycle of collapse inevitably reaches its nadir, those numbers reveal their true nature. They were never money, but merely permission slips from a state and a banking system that can revoke them at the push of a button. In the face of a true market bottom, the wealth you thought you possessed in tech stocks, mutual funds, and crypto tokens proves to be as substantial as smoke in a hurricane, unable to buy a single loaf of bread when the supply chains fracture and the currency begins its final death spiral. To survive this historical certainty, you must undergo a radical psychological pivot, shedding the entitlement of a passive consumer and adopting the grit of an active producer, realizing that your Ivy League degree or middle management title is worth nothing compared to the ability to generate tangible value in a world where the supermarket shelves are bare and the banking terminal shows a permanent connection error. The first critical skill that separates the survivors from the statistics in any era of collapse is the art of mechanical resurrection and energy autonomy. In a functioning society, we are a nation of replacers who have forgotten how to be repairers, relying on a fragile, globalized grid that is always one systemic shock away from failure. The man or woman who can maintain a diesel generator, wire a DIY solar array from salvaged components, or convert a basic internal combustion engine to run on alternative fuels is effectively the most valuable individual in their community when the lights go out. As supply chains remain broken and new parts become luxuries of the elite, the ability to breathe life into dead machinery becomes a high-income skill that bypasses the failing fiat system entirely. In this landscape, people will willingly trade their remaining physical gold, silver, or storable resources to the neighbor who can keep their water pumps running, their refrigeration active, and their medical equipment powered while the rest of the street sits in a prehistoric darkness. Mechanical competence is not just a trade, it is a form of local power, providing the essential infrastructure of survival that no government repairman or corporate service plan will ever arrive to fix during a true systemic crisis. The second pillar of your survival is the mastery of regenerative caloric production, the raw, physical science of turning dirt into life-sustaining energy without the crutch of an industrial food system that has finally ground to a halt. We have seen this pattern repeat throughout history. The convenience of the grocery store on every corner is a historical anomaly, and when it disappears, it is replaced by the grim reality of food as the ultimate currency. This is not about the hobby gardening of the elite, it is about high-yield, small-scale caloric production designed for a world where commercial fertilizers and feed are no longer available. Mastery of this skill means understanding nitrogen cycles, the mechanics of the soil, and the vital art of food preservation through fermentation, salting, and pressure canning to bridge the gap between growing seasons. Can you produce 2,000 calories a day on a small suburban lot, or raise livestock for protein when the local store has empty bins? The person who can provide fresh eggs and storable carbohydrates holds the only leverage that matters when the dollar's purchasing power is annihilated. Food has a 100% utility rate and a 0% chance of being devalued by a central bank's printing press, making the producer the undisputed king of any local economy that hits rock bottom. The third and perhaps most vital skill in your arsenal is barter orchestration and the building of a sovereign network that operates entirely beneath the radar of the failing state. As the official currency loses its meaning and the government attempts to force the population into tracked, programmable digital currencies, the underground gray and black markets become the only functioning spaces for free exchange. You must learn how to value assets based on their immediate, practical utility rather than their fictional fiat price, becoming the facilitator who knows how many gallons of fuel are worth a roll of medical gauze or a week's worth of labor. Your digital social media connections are worthless in this environment, but your reputation for integrity and your network of local producers, the welder, the nurse, the farmer, are everything when the national engine has seized. Being a fixer or a facilitator in this barter economy requires a level of trust that cannot be faked. Your word becomes your bond in a world where the legal system has retreated. You become the grease that keeps the local wheels turning, providing the essential liquidity of trust that the banking system destroyed through decades of manipulation, greed, and systematic deceit. The greatest danger you face in this transition is the dependency trap, the paralyzing hope that a government bailout or a return to normal is just around the corner, even when the math clearly dictates otherwise. This psychological vulnerability is the primary tool that the system will exploit, using digital rations and controlled handouts as a leash to manage a desperate and hungry population. If you are waiting for the system to save you, you are not a citizen, you are a hostage in a digital open-air prison where your access to basic survival is tied to your absolute compliance with state mandates. Breaking this umbilical cord requires a painful, immediate exit from the debt-for-status lifestyle and a strategic reinvestment of your remaining fiat assets into physical tools, heirloom seeds, and autonomous energy systems. You must become your own analyst, your own mechanic, and your own provider, effectively turning yourself into an anomaly that the machine cannot easily digest or control. The system has already calculated your compliance into its own survival plan, expecting you to remain a predictable cog. By developing these 3 skills, you remove yourself from the gearworks and secure a future that is not written on a government-controlled ledger. In conclusion, when the markets hit rock bottom, they don't just reach a new price point, they reach their expiration date, marking the end of the era where success was measured by the brand of your car or the size of your lawn. What remains is a raw, unforgiving physical reality where value is measured by what you can do with your hands, what you physically possess, and how much you can help your immediate community survive. The divide between the digital slaves who remain in a financial coma and the autonomous sovereigns who have mastered the physical world becomes an unbridgeable chasm as the crisis deepens. As the paper currency of the old world begins to burn, providing only a fleeting moment of warmth for those who hoarded it, the stone house founded on energy autonomy, production, and trade will be the only structure left standing. The time for choosing between a beautiful, crumbling facade and real, grit-toothed independence has expired. You must exchange your digital dust for physical reality today, right now, before the banking terminal shows its final connection error and the door to the old, comfortable world is locked from the outside forever, leaving only the prepared to build the new world on the ruins of the old.